25% tariffs on India. I don't care what India does with Russia. India and Russia can take their dead economies down together. The Trump team is frustrated with India. This is some of the messaging coming from the Trump administration. Trump's tariff attack on India is a case of sour grapes. India has been proven to be a tough negotiator that simply refuses to bend the knee and compromise on its interests. Trump has been shifting goalposts and playing nasty tricks throughout the talks. These reckless tactics have now hit a wall in India. So what is happening? How do we read Trump's actions, and what are India's options, and what's next? This is Shubhangi Sharma, and a fresh wave of hostility is emanating from the Trump camp. 25% tariffs on India, mocking jibes about Pakistani oil, the taunt that India's economy is dead, and a threat that India and Russia can sink together. This messaging signals a deeper frustration within the Trump team over India's refusal to bend.
That the president, the whole trade team's been frustrated with them. And also, India's been a large buyer of sanctioned Russian oil that they then resell as refined products. So, they have not been a great global actor.
India has proven to be a tough negotiator, clear in its red lines and unwilling to compromise on core interests. Trump's tactics have made negotiations very hard, from shifting goalposts, last-minute bait and switches, to playing the bully. Just look at this. The tariff announcement came just as India successfully launched the Nisar satellite, which is the largest joint mission between ISRO and NASA. Instead of celebrating a milestone in India-US cooperation, Trump dropped a blistering tariff attack on India. The move was not without precedent. Similar tactics were used with Japan and the EU, but the sudden pivot to penalizing India for its oil trade with Russia while having praised Putin throughout his own campaign marks a particularly cynical turn. By mockingly offering Pakistani oil after making a shoddy deal with Pakistan to drill out its oil reserves and branding India as a dead economy, Trump has crossed a diplomatic red line. He seems determined to bait India into a bad deal. But New Delhi has not taken this bait. Trump has fundamentally misread India, from claiming he resolved the India-Pakistan conflict to underestimating India's economic trajectory. Prime Minister Modi has made it clear in Parliament. No foreign leader told him to stop Operation Sindoor. That statement closed the door on Trump's attempts to insert himself into this conflict's dynamic.
किसी भी नेता ने भारत के ऑपरेशन रोकने के लिए नहीं कहा.
And as for India's economy, it is far from dead. It is the world's fastest growing major economy and the fourth largest overall. Now, trade with US alone stands at $132 billion, with India exporting $77.5 billion in the last fiscal year, and the US exporting almost $55 billion, which is as much as its exports to Germany. So when Trump claims that the US does very little business in India, the numbers prove otherwise. With such erratic and irresponsible behavior, Trump has effectively vetoed the spirit of India-US ties. India cannot incentivize this pattern with capitulation now. So far, New Delhi's calm and measured response reflects a deliberate strategy. Ignore the provocations, keep focus on India's long-term interests, and avoid any knee-jerk concessions. Modi is simply playing the long game. India had negotiated in good faith and was ready to offer substantial trade concessions to the US, something Trump could have claimed as a big win. But instead, he targeted the entirety of India's agriculture and dairy sectors, which is an unacceptable move in a country where more than half the population depends on farming. Worse still, he kept shifting goalposts, and ultimately, he injected Russia into the mix at the 11th hour, demanding that India halt oil purchases or face unspecified penalties. Trump's abrasive tactics go beyond just the trade deal and have inflicted long-term damage on the factor of trust in the India-US relationship. From playing the Pakistan card to inserting the Russia angle to threatening India's economy, Trump's bullying is counterproductive. It's bad diplomacy. The real issue might be Trump's own failure to come through. He promised to end the Russia-Ukraine war. That hasn't happened. Neither Putin nor Zelensky has come to the table, and Putin continues to defy US efforts especially. Frustrated, Trump appears to be pivoting, pushing weapons support to Ukraine and looking for new pressure points. One of them apparently is India. Senator Lindsey Graham is pushing for secondary sanctions, tariffs of 100% to 500% to punish India and China for continuing Russian oil imports. And Trump has bought into this idea. India buying Russian oil did not matter to Trump until just weeks ago. This was a flip-flop. Instead of admitting failure and seeking India's help to broker peace, Trump has chosen to antagonize a key US partner. This is overreach in the name of a trade deal, and it risks turning the clock back onto the relationship. On India's part, there are reports that state refiners have ceased purchases of Russian oil, although a majority of it is bought by private refiners. Trump took note of this, claiming with uncertainty that India will stop purchases. But sources in the Indian government refute any reports of halts in purchases. India shunning Russian oil in its entirety will instantly raise global oil prices from an added $10 at first to as high as $140 a barrel if sustained. And this will raise its own import bill to $14 billion. No one wants higher oil prices, including Trump, who may be going for optics to push forth with a trade deal. Now on to the question, what are India's options? Although retaliation is not being considered mid-negotiation, India has a broad spectrum of options should tensions escalate. On trade, retaliatory tariffs, especially on steel and aluminium, remain firmly on the table. In defense, Trump may have already undermined any prospects of an F-35 deal with India. Reports say that India has already communicated that it is not interested in buying F-35s, especially given that technology transfer and co-production is not on the table. Other prospective defense deals could also come under trouble as well, especially since India is miffed with delayed deliveries of the orders already in place. In the services sector, India can hit back hard, from imposing added duties on US tech giants to initiating antitrust investigations, tightening antitrust laws and pushing penalties and also data sovereignty legislation. We could do a lot. Education could also become a powerful lever. India is one of the largest spenders on costly American higher education. Redirecting this investment either by retaining talent and capital within the country or shifting focus to nations that respect Indian interests would serve India's long-term strategic goals. India can also infuse energy into PLI schemes, sweetening the subsidies even more. Geopolitically, signals are already emerging. The revival of the RIC, which is the Russia-India-China trilateral, the strengthening of BRICS, and a more assertive India in the Indo-Pacific. If the current trajectory continues, the Quad may face an untimely and bitter phase. You see, while American support has proved transient, the Chinese threat is permanent. So India can work with partners like Japan, Australia, Indonesia, and the Philippines without being drawn into a zero-sum great power rivalry. Now remember that these are just options and they go far into the future. But here's how India is negotiating now. From Japan to the EU, the pattern of Trump's trade deals is clear. Verbal promises, inflated headline numbers, one-sided tariff concessions, and a generous ego boost for Trump. But no signatures, no binding commitments, no deadlines, and plenty of loopholes. These deals serve a dual purpose. Trump gets the optics, tariffs on the American side and none on the other, large investment promises, energy and defense buyouts, a deal he can talk up for political mileage, while the other side retains deniability. If Trump quotes these verbal agreements, it becomes politically expensive for his counterpart. But the other side still walks away with lower tariffs, market stability, and enough ambiguity to keep negotiating behind the scenes. The core realization across capitals is that for Trump, tariffs are not just a negotiating tool. They are the goal. He wants tariffs for domestic reasons, to boost revenue, cut trade deficits, bankroll future tax breaks, and revive American industries. His administration is openly celebrating tariff collections, viewing them as a cash windfall for the Treasury. $150 billion has already been collected and they're quite happy about that. In this context, India now faces a strategic choice. Is it worth entering into a high-risk verbal deal to buy time, secure lower tariffs, and continue talks in the background? Or should India push for a more formal, legally binding agreement, one that Trump can't arbitrarily tear up later, but which may be harder to land now? Japan and the EU may have reached their limits, but India, less reliant on exports, has been more patient. And perhaps that is why Trump is using larger geopolitical threats and putting strategic pillars of India-US ties at risk to build leverage. It's like holding a gun to India-US relations. Needless to say, the latest salvos make negotiation tougher. We might see a deal, slightly reduced tariffs or not, some promises, even some policy shifts. But at what cost? The damage will leave a scar. While there is still time for the US president to recalibrate, the mistrust he has seeded will linger well beyond any short-term agreement.